and around where he'd been in bondage, and a house of figs has started. In Egypt, they're in the place of misery, Mitzrayim, and they begin to leave. House of figs has started. Yeshua is in the place of Beth Ani, the place of misery, and guess what? A house of figs is, he looks at him and says, oh, it's not quite ready yet. But then he says, when you do see them getting ready, it's a sign of the end time. And that's talking about the day that you and I are in right now as we speak. Now, the interesting thing here, let me just throw this out for you. At Mount Sinai, and I have had this confirmed by people that are eyewitnesses that were there. And this is my personal opinion, and I believe it fits like a glove to what I'm sharing with you this evening. Mount Sinai is known as Jabal el-Lawz, the mountain of Luz, or the mountain of almonds, right? Almond trees are everywhere. But the entire area, the mountain area, and all around it is also completely covered with fig trees. Hold up now. We're talking about a place that has both the almonds and the figs. I believe the fig tree represents the 10 nations that were dispersed, the house of Israel. I believe the almond trees represent the house of Judah and Benjamin on the mountain. That's my personal opinion. Now, what you're seeing in this spiritual battle that's taking place is that Jacob is becoming two houses. Jacob is literally going to act out what we're seeing, what we've been living right now. In Genesis 32, verse 3, it says that, well, let me go back and look at it with you. Can y'all hold out a little while longer? Genesis 32, to me, this is just phenomenal. Yahweh showed me this morning when I was sitting here getting prepared for this particular teaching. I'm thinking, my goodness, this is just mind-staggering. And I'm talking about what we've seen already. Genesis 32, verse 3. And Jacob sent messengers before him to his brother Esau unto the land of Seir, the country of Edom. Now, he understands there's a pitched battle. He's got the word. He knows that he's coming. And if there's a natural battle taking place, then there must be a spiritual battle. We've already talked about the fact that he's encountered the hosts of Yahweh, spiritual battle. Well, if the hosts of Yahweh are there, you can rest assured that the hosts of the enemy are also there. Now, Jacob calls that place, back there in verse 2, he calls it Machanim, Strong's number 4266, which he says that after he sees the hosts. He says, my goodness, let's read it. Verse 2, and when Jacob saw them, the hosts, he said, this is Yahweh's host. And he called the name of that place Machanim. Now, the King James English doesn't help you here, but the word host and Machanim are the same word. Machana or Machane means camp. Machanim means two camps. So what Jacob is seeing, he's seeing what's about to happen. He's seeing the fact that he came out one camp. And now the camps are going to be divided. And what does Jacob do? Jacob divides the house. Are you seeing it? Well, that's exactly what we're seeing now, except the two houses are going to go back into one. Amen? Now, it's a prophetic declaration that's being lived in front of Jacob. Now, it says that he's going to meet Esau. Strong's number 6215. You've heard the definition of Esau probably a number of different times. He's connected with Seir, which is a word for goat or hairy goat or shaggy one. And Esau is translated as the hairy one. But I personally believe that if you'll break that down into the root stem of the word Esav, that you'll see something that you probably haven't seen before. And I don't believe that it's stretching the word. Strong's number 6211 is what I'm talking about. That word is an ayin shin. Esau is built with 3 Hebrew letters, ayin, shin, vav. The ayin shin forms this word as, and that's a word that refers to a little insect called a moth that is very fragile, yet it's destructive. It was known throughout the Torah, metaphorically, it was known as an insect that would destroy houses of earth and clay. Wait a second. Isn't that what the boundary line's for? To separate the house of earth and clay? from the spiritual house of Yah. Can y'all see that? And if you're not careful, as soon as you start to make an effort to serve Yahweh, the moth will come, Esau will come and do his best to destroy the earthen house. Can y'all see that? Are y'all not getting it? Just get the tape. Get the notes in the tape. Smile and nod. I'm getting this. Help me out here. Now, in Job, Psalm, and Hosea, that moth metaphorically is used to describe the destruction of men's flesh, the destruction of your enemies, and also the destruction of Ephraim. Now, if you add that vav right here, ayin sheen vav, on the other end, it could infer my moth, the destroying one who divided the house of Israel. Are you seeing that? And that's exactly what happened. As soon as she set on the house gods, the moth had already come. See, the moth arrived spiritually long before Esau arrived naturally. Can y'all see the war that's taking place in the heavenly? For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. We've quoted that all of our lives, but we've never understood the magnitude of this spiritual battle. What you see in the natural realm is a reflection of what's taking place already in the spirit realm. Now, if you want things around you in the natural to change, then you've got to affect the spirit realm first. Whenever you start speaking to the natural things, you have to understand you have to speak from the word's perspective, because it's a word that changes the spirit realm first, then it changes the natural realm. That battle's taking place around us. You're wrestling not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, spiritual wickedness in high places, heavenly places. All right, hopefully you are getting this. Now, it's also interesting that Esau comes to meet him, Jacob, with 400 men. And we were talking about it last night. We're looking at the gematria, numerical value. And 400 is the gematria of the Hebrew letter Tav, which is the sign of the covenant. I don't think Esau is a sign of the covenant. But on the other hand, we've known in the past, in looking at these Hebrew words, there's usually a blessing side and a cursing side. Like the word debar and deber. A promise word, a destroying word. Same root stem. Some of us have been accustomed to the destroying word. That pestilence that will not come nigh your dwelling if you stay underneath the wing of the shadow of the Almighty, Psalm 91. The destroying word won't affect you. The promised word will. Now, this number 400 also has a cursed side and a blessing side of it, if you will. It is the numerical value, as we said, of the Hebrew letter Tav, but it's also the same numerical value of Strong's number 3784. Are you getting any of this? That word is kasaf, and the word kasaf means to practice sorcery, witchcraft, magic, occult magic. Now, it's interesting that this is the entourage that Esau is bringing with him. He's bringing people with him that spiritually are connected to sorcery and occultism and witchcraft. Are y'all beginning to see a pattern develop? It's the same thing that you saw connected, that word kasaf, with Babylon, Nineveh. Both of those kingdoms were built by Nimrod, and both the northern and southern kingdoms of Israel and Judah were given to witchcraft and sorcery and occultism by times. That pattern hasn't stopped. It's the same thing we see today. In the church today, there's witchcraft and sorcery and occultism. And so what's happened is that Esau and his army have already got inside the house, and a house that's divided can't stand. And I'll go one better than that. The only way that you can spoil the house is to bind the strong man. Well, if he's already in the house, the biggest part of the battle's already won by him. Now, it's interesting that we're admonished to watch for a king who's going to come in the last days, known as the Antichrist, Anti-Messiah, the wicked one, the lawless one, the rebellious one, the son of perdition. All of those are the same monikers for one individual who is the opposition or the counterfeit to the Messiah. It says that this king will understand dark sentences. The word sentence there, as a matter of fact, sorcery and soothsaying and occultism are steeped in dark mysteries and sentences. The root of the word sentence there, the word is Strong's number 2420, chidah, which of course means a dark secret, a riddle, an oracle, an oracle, an enigma. But it's also interesting, since we're talking about the flesh and the carnal side and the seed of the serpent, the word for serpent is the word nakash. You can see that first used in Genesis 3:1, talking about the serpent, the nakash, being more subtle than every beast of the field. And when you originally read that, you're thinking, bless the darling snake's heart. I mean, he just couldn't help being created to be subtle. If you look at the word subtle, it means someone who's, covert in their actions. And, we don't look at it as one deceiving and conniving. But the word nakash means soothsayer, sorcerer, given to dark sayings, speaking things that can be twisted. That's exactly what he did with Eve. And guess what? He's going to be doing the same thing again. Now, as we continue to look at it, we find that Jacob has just met with a company of Malachim, the hosts of Yahweh, and he's going to encounter the hosts of the enemy in Esau's band. And Genesis 32:14 and 15 tells us that he decides he's going to send a peace offering. See, that's what's happened to us. Rather than fight the battle, we'll send a peace offering. Are you hearing me? Rather than fight the battle with the enemy, we will try and appease him. Now, wait a second. You cannot appease one who is going to destroy. John 10:10 says, the thief cometh not but for to steal, kill, and destroy. That's his modus operandi. And if you try and appease him, all it's going to do is cause you to die a little easier. Hello. Now, it gives great detail about the numbers of the animals that Jacob, out of his great fear, that's what it says, not meod, but meod is the word, great fear, that he sends gifts to Esau to plead for deliverance. If you're bargaining with the enemy, and I know I've been squeezed before, will you please just back off? I won't preach so hard next time. I won't keep the Sabbath, and I won't teach the feast days, because if I do, that'll run off some of the folks. And so I'll plead with him for, look, if you compromise, destruction's on the way. Now, it says that he sends 200 she-goats, 20 he-goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milch camels with their colts, 40 kine and 10 bulls, 20 she-asses and 10 foals. The total is 550. 550 is a numerical value of Strong's number 5404, the word for Nesser, or eagle. Now here is Jacob. He's about to encounter one who's bent on destroying him, and yet he thinks that he's going to provide for his own deliverance, and Yahweh's already said, I'll provide the lamb. In this instance, he's provided the eagle, because he told him, when I brought you out of Egypt, didn't I deliver you on eagle's wings? Well, this is exactly what he's doing here with Jacob. He's delivering him with the wings of the eagles. That's what that number Nesser means. And it's not an isolated incident, because in Revelation chapter 12, when the woman and the man-child had the flood out of the mouth of the serpent vomited out on them, guess what? An eagle shows up to deliver them again. Can y'all see that? Now, look in Genesis 33, verse 4. But before you get there, let me just remind you, look at those numbers. Did you know that there are 5 groupings? What's the word for 5 in Hebrew? Kamesh. Do you remember when the children of Israel are leaving Egypt in Exodus 13:18, and it says that Israel comes out of Egypt harnessed? I hope that you're interested, because you'll have to tune into track 3 of this CD to get the rest of the story. Of course, I'm not going to give you credit for it. I'm going to take it myself. Thank you for tuning back in with us to track 3 of this teaching on Vayishlach. We're looking at the Torah portion this week in Genesis chapter 32, and the interesting things that sometimes in the intermission, you may not be able to hear it, and it may not get on the tape, but my brother Dane just shared something regarding this 400 men that Esau's bringing with him. I'm going to ask him to share this with you. Go ahead, brother.
Okay. No, he came and the 400 men. This is a personification.
Esau.
Yeah, Esau. When he comes and meets Jacob. Interesting that what was happening behind Jacob at the time, this was early morning, and Hashemesh was rising behind
the sun.
him. Yeah. at any rate, he